Have you ever had a moment, so small, but somehow, it stayed with you for years? Maybe you were speaking, trying to explain something, and someone smiled a little, looked at the room, and said, "Let someone who actually understands explain."
No, that won't
People
work.
laughed.
We need something better.
Not loudly.
Oh.
Just enough. Enough for you to feel it. Enough to suddenly become aware of yourself, your voice, your words, the way you were sitting, and in that moment, something changed. You started speaking differently. Smaller. Faster. Trying harder. You laughed it off. Pretended it didn't bother you. But later that night, for some reason, your mind kept going back there. Replaying the moment. Thinking, why didn't I say something? Did I really sound stupid? And maybe, this is the painful part nobody talks about. The painful part isn't always what they said. Sometimes, it's what their words quietly make you believe about yourself. Welcome to Blissful Journey. Tonight, we're going to talk about why moments like this hurt so deeply.
You can do this. You are capable. Go out there and show them what you're made of.
And I think that this feature will, really optimize the workflow. We can get like a 30% increase in, but it's really good and you should listen.
Why your brain reacts so strongly when someone makes you feel small. Why trying too hard to prove you're smart often makes you lose your power. And how emotionally strong people protect their dignity without becoming cold. Good. Because before we talk about how to respond, we need to understand something first. Why does something so small hurt this much? Why can one sentence follow you home?
Notice the amygdala's alarm.
Why does your mind replay it while brushing your teeth,
With gentle awareness,
driving,
we can
trying
help
to sleep?
it calm.
And why, hours later, do you suddenly think of the perfect response? The perfect comeback. The smarter version of yourself, the version that sounded calm, confident, untouchable. But in the actual moment, nothing. Or worsey, you started talking too much, explaining too much, trying too hard.
Excuse me,
And if that has ever happened to
So
you,
you see,
Could I just?
I want
Oh,
you to
that's what
know
I
something
thought.
important.
I agree.
This is not because you are weak. And it is definitely not because you are stupid. Your brain is doing something very human. Something very old. There's a part of your brain called the amygdala. You don't need to remember the word.
I feel like that idea wasn't fully
Just think of it as your emotional
but
alarm
that's
system.
okay.
Its job is simply
Maybe
detect
not.
danger fast. The problem is, your brain is older than modern life. Much older. Thousands of years ago, being rejected by your group was dangerous. If people humiliated you, excluded you, or stopped respecting you, you could lose belonging, protection, safety. And for the human brain, social rejection once carried real consequences. So even today, your nervous system still treats humiliation seriously. Much more seriously than logic wants to admit. Which means, when someone
And
makes you feel
furthermore,
stupid,
well,
your
what I mean
brain
to
hears
say is,
something important.
Basically, it's just really
Not,
sigh.
you are intellectually
Scoff.
wrong. But, careful. Something feels socially unsafe. And suddenly,
I've been over it
your
so
body
many
reacts
times.
before your wisdom
it has
does.
to be right, you see?
Your chest
I
tightens.
need you to understand.
Your stomach drops. Your thoughts become messy. You speak faster.
And that concludes my presentation. Any thoughts? Just wanted to make sure everything was clear. No questions? Okay.
Or you go blank. Sometimes both. And strangely, you start doing the exact thing that hurts you most. You try to prove yourself. You explain too much. You defend details nobody even asked about. Because somewhere inside, a quieter
should've
fear
said.
appears.
Well,
Don't
the
let them
drugstore
think less
called,
of you.
And they're all out of you.
And maybe, this is the painful part. Not what they said. But what shame quietly starts whispering afterward. Maybe I sounded stupid. Maybe everyone noticed. Maybe I embarrassed myself. And shame is persuasive. Because shame rarely sounds loud. It sounds reasonable. Careful. Almost protective. But what it's really doing is making you shrink. There's actually a reason you replay these moments for hours. Psychologists sometimes talk about what people casually call the shower comeback effect. The strange moment where, hours later, you suddenly know exactly what you should have said, and people often think, why am I only smart afterward? But maybe you weren't stupid in the moment. Maybe your nervous system got scared. Because when emotions settle, the thinking part of your brain slowly comes back online. And suddenly, clarity returns. The words come back. Your confidence comes back. Your perspective comes back. But something deeper is happening too. Because sometimes, the moment hurts this much, not because of what happened today, but because it touched something older. I once heard a psychologist say something I never forgot. The most
Welcome,
painful
everyone.
moments
I
in
appreciate your
adulthood
time. Just to
often
clarify,
reopen
the
wounds
data
that
indicates-
never fully
Wait,
healed.
Is this right? Should I add this graph?
And
No, that's too
strangely,
much.
Sometimes it only takes 10 seconds.
When I started here, I never expected moments like these. It means a lot that we can be this open with each other.
Let me tell you about someone. A young employee. Quiet. Hardworking. The kind of person who prepared too much because they cared too much. He had only been at the company for a few weeks. And one morning,
So if we look at the
during
Q3
his first
projections,
serious meeting,
we see a
he
significant...
finally spoke up.
Wait, no.
Not
That's not right.
confidently,
Okay, let's try again.
but sincerely. He had stayed late preparing ideas. Rehearsed what he wanted to say. Even worried about sounding smart enough. So when the
I've
room
looked at the data,
finally became
and
quiet,
there's something
he
important
started
we should
explaining
discuss
his
before
idea.
moving forward.
Slowly, carefully, and halfway through, someone older interrupted. Not angrily. Actually, almost casually. With a small laugh. And a sentence that sounded harmless enough. Let's hear from someone with a bit more experience. The room laughed softly. Not cruelly. Nobody meant harm. Nobody yelled. Nobody insulted him. And yet, something changed. He stopped talking. Smiled awkwardly. Nodded. Pretended it was fine. But later that night, he replayed the moment again. And again. And again. Not because of what the man said, but because of what the moment quietly made him feel. Small. Unqualified. Like maybe, he had embarrassed himself. And this is the strange thing about humiliation. Sometimes the moment lasts 10 seconds, but the meaning we attach to it lasts for years. Because after that meeting, he slowly changed. He stopped speaking first. Stopped sharing ideas. Started second, guessing himself. Even when he knew the answer, he stayed quiet. Not because he suddenly
This report is
became less
unacceptable. Who
intelligent,
approved these figures?
but because
discussed
his
the budget
nervous
constraints
system
last
remembered
month.
pain.
I need solutions, not excuses. by morning.
Psychologists sometimes call this threat conditioning. In simple words, your brain learns from emotional danger. If speaking up once led to humiliation, some part of you quietly learns, be careful next time. Stay smaller. Don't risk that feeling again. And maybe, you've experienced this too. Not necessarily in an office. Maybe in school. A relationship. Your family. A room where
That's
someone
exactly what we
laughed.
needed for the pitch deck. It
And
really
something
seals the
inside
deal.
you slowly
Right.
became quieter
I think we're
afterward.
finally ready to present this Friday.
And this is important to understand. The painful part wasn't embarrassment. The painful part was what he slowly started believing about himself. That he wasn't smart enough. Interesting enough. Good enough. When really, he was simply hurt. And maybe, that changes how we see ourselves. Because perhaps, you were never weak. Maybe your brain was simply trying to protect you. But this is also exactly where many people accidentally make things worse. Because once we feel small, most of us respond in the exact wrong way. Because when we feel small, most of us instinctively do the same thing. We try to recover quickly. We try to prove ourselves. We explain more, talk faster, defend every detail, try harder to sound intelligent, as if somewhere inside we believe, if I can just explain myself well enough, maybe they'll stop seeing me this way. But strangely, this is often the exact moment we lose the room. Not because we are wrong, and not because we are unintelligent, but because something else quietly takes over. Shame. And shame has a strange effect on people.
That
It speeds
project
us
meeting
up.
went well.
Yeah,
Makes
it
us
did.
talk
Good work,
too
everyone.
much.
Yes, good
Makes
work.
us explain
I'll
things
update the
nobody even
spreadsheet.
asked us to explain. Makes us defend ourselves before anyone has truly accused us. And if you've ever watched someone nervous, trying desperately to prove they belong, you know something changes in the energy. Confidence disappears, not intelligence. Confidence. There's a quiet truth many emotionally mature people eventually learn. The moment shame starts talking, wisdom usually leaves the room. Because wisdom is slow, calm, grounded. Shame is fast, urgent, desperate. And desperation rarely feels powerful. In psychology, there's something subtle, but important we notice in human interaction. People often unconsciously associate calmness with confidence. Not always correctly, but instinctively. When someone reacts too quickly, too emotionally, too defensively, people often read uncertainty. But when someone pauses, breathes, chooses their words slowly, something shifts. The emotional temperature changes. And this doesn't mean becoming cold, or detached, or pretending nothing hurts. No. Pain can still be there. But emotional steadiness creates something powerful: space. And space gives wisdom time to arrive. Have you ever noticed something strange? The calmest person in the room often feels the hardest to embarrass. Not because they never feel hurt, but because they do not rush to perform confidence. They do not panic when challenged. They do not suddenly fight for approval. And maybe that's real confidence. Not always having the smartest answer, but not abandoning yourself the moment someone makes you feel small. So, the question becomes, what do emotionally strong people actually do in the moment? Because saying, "Just stay calm," sounds nice. But what does that even mean? When your heart is racing, when shame is loud, when part of you desperately wants to prove yourself. Let me offer you something practical. Not perfect, but human. The first thing emotionally strong people often do is surprisingly simple. They pause.
Maybe if we try a new
Not
marketing
forever,
strategy.
just a few
or
seconds.
Perhaps we could
And no,
rebrand.
This is not
What do
weak
you
silence. This is not submission. This is regulation. Because when your nervous system becomes activated, your emotional brain starts driving. And if you respond too quickly, you are often responding from pain, not wisdom. That pause, even just 3 seconds, gives your nervous system time to settle. It interrupts what psychologists often call an emotional hijack. And, strangely, 3 quiet seconds can feel very long, especially when somebody expects an immediate reaction. But something important happens there. You stop reacting and start observing. The second thing emotionally strong people do is subtle, but powerful. Before responding to the other person, they regulate themselves. This matters because most people think, I need to control the conversation. But emotionally mature people quietly understand. First, I need to calm my nervous system. Because you are not responding to them. Not yet. You are calming yourself. And sometimes, that means breathing once. Slowing down your body. Relaxing your shoulders. Noticing the urge to prove yourself. Without obeying it. Because emotional urgency is often where regret begins. And then comes the response. Not defensive. Not dramatic. Not designed to win. Just steady. Sometimes. Just one sentence. Maybe. Or that's an interesting way to see it. Or my personal favorite. Help me understand what you mean. Do you notice what happens there? Something shifts. The pressure moves. Because questions are powerful. Psychologists who study difficult conversations often notice something interesting. Questions slow emotional escalation. Questions create reflection. And sometimes, questions quietly reveal more about the other person than arguments ever could. Especially when someone was expecting emotion. Expecting defensiveness. Expecting performance. And instead, they meet calm. No anger. No performance. No proving. Just steadiness. Because emotionally mature people slowly stop fighting to look smart. And begin focusing on something much deeper. Staying emotionally steady. But there is still one difficult question left. Why does this hurt some people so deeply? While others seem to move on so easily. And sometimes, the answer has nothing to do with today. Sometimes today simply touched something older. Maybe, when you were younger, someone laughed when you tried speaking up. Maybe you were compared. Corrected constantly. Made to feel not smart enough. Maybe you learned early that mistakes felt unsafe. Or that being wrong meant embarrassment. And the difficult thing about emotional wounds is that they rarely disappear. They wait. Quietly. Until something familiar touches them again. That comment in the meeting. That laugh. That interruption. And suddenly, you are not only reacting to today. Some younger part of you quietly wakes up too. Psychologists sometimes call this emotional memory. Or schemas. Old beliefs the brain quietly carries. I'm not enough. I sound stupid. People don't take me seriously. And if we don't notice it, we spend adulthood trying desperately to outrun feelings that were never created today. But here's the hopeful part. Awareness changes things. Because once you can see the wound, you stop becoming the wound. And maybe healing begins here. Not in becoming tougher. Not colder. Not learning the perfect comeback. But in quietly realizing, maybe I do not need to prove my worth. Every time someone misunderstands me. Because you do not need to win every room. You do not need to sound intelligent to every person. And maybe maturity begins the moment you stop trying to convince people committed to misunderstanding you. The truth is, some people will always try to make others feel smaller. Sometimes because they are insecure. Sometimes because power feels safer than vulnerability. And sometimes because hurting people quietly hurt people. But their behavior does not get to decide your value. And maybe real confidence is simpler than we think. Maybe it is not dominance, or clever words, or winning arguments. Maybe real confidence sounds quieter, steadier, like this. I no longer need to shrink or perform. Every time someone tries to make me feel small. This is blissful journey. And if something in tonight's conversation quietly stayed with you, I hope you carry this into your next difficult room. Pause. Breathe. Protect your peace. And remember, sometimes the strongest person in the room is simply the one who no longer feels the need to prove they belong there.